Sophia Carter sat alone at a small table in the corner of a lively bistro, a glass of Sauvignon Blanc cradled in her hand. The soft glow of the pendant lights above illuminated her face, reflecting the quiet pride she felt after a long day managing cases in her courtroom. The savory aroma of rosemary and thyme mingled with the laughter and chatter of diners enjoying their evening. For a brief moment, she allowed herself to savor the peaceful atmosphere, a sharp contrast to the relentless intensity of her work as a judge. Just one more glass to celebrate, she murmured to herself, raising her glass in a silent toast to her accomplishments. Her mind wandered to the cases she had resolved and the lives she had impacted. She took pride in being a voice for justice within her community. As she sipped her wine, the bistro's door swung open abruptly, interrupting the tranquil ambience. Officer Ethan Brooks strode in, his uniform crisp and his expression tense. His eyes scanned the room, landing squarely on Sophia. The moment lingered, the air thick with an unspoken tension. Sophia's heart sank as she noticed his scrutinizing gaze. Something in his demeanor unsettled her. "Can I help you, officer?" Sophia called out, breaking the heavy silence. Her voice was calm, but her nerves were already fraying. Conversations around her hushed as other diners turned their attention toward the scene. Ethan walked up to her table, his expression a mix of determination and suspicion. "I need to ask you a few questions," he said, his voice firm. "You were seen leaving a neighborhood earlier today that's known for illegal activities. Can I see some identification?" Sophia's pulse quickened. "Excuse me." "I'm a judge," she replied, her voice steady despite the anxiety roiling inside her. She reached for her wallet and retrieved her badge, holding it up so it caught the light. "This should clarify who I am." But Ethan's eyes narrowed, his stance unyielding. "I don't care what title you hold," he said, his tone sharp. "No one is above the law." The murmurs among the diners grew louder, their curiosity now tinged with unease. "Is this really necessary?" "I haven't done anything wrong," Sophia countered, striving to maintain her composure as the weight of the room's judgment pressed down on her. "Then why were you in that area?" Ethan demanded, his voice rising slightly. "People like you are often involved in suspicious activities." "I'm just doing my job." "People like me?" Sophia repeated, her tone laced with disbelief and anger. "You're making baseless assumptions because of how I look. This is unacceptable." Ethan's expression remained cold and impassive. "I'm simply asking questions. If you've got nothing to hide, there's no reason to be defensive." Sophia felt a wave of humiliation wash over her, the heat rising to her cheeks as she caught the judgment in the faces of those around her. "I understand you have a job to do, but this is an overreach. You're publicly embarrassing me without cause." "I'm not embarrassing you, you're doing that yourself," Ethan retorted, his words cutting like ice. "If you're innocent, prove it. Show me your ID." The tension in the room was palpable. Sophia glanced around, noticing a mix of empathy and discomfort in the diner's eyes. Her dignity felt like it was being stripped away, piece by piece, with every passing second. "This isn't just about me," she said, her voice rising with conviction. "This is about systemic biases that allow this kind of treatment based on appearances." "Spare me the lecture," Ethan interrupted, folding his arms across his chest. "You can't just play the race card here." Sophia took a deep breath, her thoughts racing as she weighed the gravity of the moment. "I demand to speak to your supervisor," she said, her tone firm and unwavering. For the first time, Ethan hesitated, his bravado wavering. He shook his head, dismissing her demand. "This is a waste of my time," he said with a sharp edge to his voice. The standoff continued, and Sophia realized that this moment was more than just a personal insult, it symbolized a larger issue that demanded attention. She could feel the stares of the restaurant's patrons burning into her, the need for justice coursing through her veins. In that moment, she resolved not to let this go unanswered. Sophia stepped out of the bistro, the crisp night air hitting her face like a splash of cold water. She took a deep breath, trying to steady the whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. As she walked down the dimly lit street, her mind replayed the humiliating encounter with Officer Ethan Brooks. The weight of his accusations pressed heavily on her, but she refused to let them crush her spirit. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her from her thoughts. It was her friend, Rachel. "Hey, Sophia, are you okay?" Rachel's voice came through, laced with concern. I'm fine," Sophia replied, though her voice wavered slightly. The memory of the other diner's stares, their hushed whispers, and Ethan's booming accusations was still fresh. "No, actually, I'm not fine. You won't believe what just happened." "What happened?" Rachel asked, her tone shifting from concern to curiosity. Sophia found a nearby bench and sank onto it, her fingers trembling slightly as she recounted the event. "I was just having dinner, enjoying a quiet moment, and then he walked in and accused me of being a criminal. He didn't even give me a chance to explain who I was." "Are you serious?" Rachel exclaimed, her voice rising in disbelief. "That's outrageous. Did you tell him you're a judge?" "I tried," Sophia said, her frustration bubbling to the surface. "But he just kept talking over me, like my words didn't matter. It was as if he took one look at me, made a snap judgment, and that was it. I felt so powerless." Rachel paused, absorbing the gravity of Sophia's words. "Sophia, you have to file a formal complaint. This isn't just about you, it's about holding him accountable. If no one stands up to behavior like this, it'll just keep happening." Sophia leaned back against the cold metal of the bench, gazing at the stars faintly visible through the city's glow. "I know you're right," she admitted, her voice steadier now. "But it's so exhausting. Do I really want to put myself through that? What if they don't believe me?" "They have to believe you," Rachel insisted, her tone resolute. "You're a respected judge. You have a duty to stand up for what's right, not just for yourself, but for everyone who has faced this kind of injustice. If you don't do it, who will?" Sophia closed her eyes, images of those who had fought against systemic bias and discrimination flashing in her mind. She felt a flicker of determination spark within her. "You're right. This could be a turning point. Maybe it's time to shine a light on these issues, especially here in our community." "Exactly," Rachel said, her voice filled with encouragement. "And think about the people you could empower by taking action. You could be a voice for those who feel silenced." The weight of Sophia's emotions began to shift, transforming into a sense of purpose. "All right," she said, her voice resolute. "I'll do it. I'll file the complaint. But first, I want to gather evidence. I think there were witnesses in the bistro who saw what happened." "Great idea. Let's start reaching out to them," Rachel said, her enthusiasm infectious. "You've got this, Sophia. You're strong, and you have the law on your side." Sophia stood from the bench, the cool air invigorating her spirit. She took a deep breath, feeling grounded and determined. "Thank you, Rachel. I really needed this conversation. I won't let this incident define me. Instead, I'll use it to fuel the change I want to see." As they continued talking, Sophia felt a renewed sense of hope. The journey ahead would be difficult, but she was ready to face it head-on. The incident might have shaken her, but it had also ignited a fire within her, a fire she hadn't realized was there. She wasn't just a victim, she was a judge, a leader, and a catalyst for change. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of the police station, casting long shadows across the linoleum floor. Sophia Carter stepped inside, her heart pounding with a mix of determination and anxiety. She had replayed the previous day's events 1,000 times in her mind, preparing for what was to come. Each time Sophia replayed the events in her mind, the sting of humiliation resurfaced. But today, she was ready to confront the system that had wronged her. Clad in a tailored navy blazer that exuded authority and confidence, she walked into the police station. The air was sterile, the linoleum floors reflecting the fluorescent lights above. She approached the front desk, where an officer sat scrolling through his phone. "Excuse me," Sophia said, her voice steadied despite the nervous fluttering in her stomach. "I'd like to file a complaint regarding Officer Ethan Brooks." The officer looked up, his expression shifting from disinterest to mild curiosity. "You mean the guy who had that thing at the bistro yesterday? What's your complaint?" His tone was dismissive, as though he was already preparing to brush her off. Sophia took a deep breath, steeling herself. "I was wrongfully accused of being involved in illegal activity. Officer Brooks didn't identify himself properly and escalated the situation without justification. I'm here to make sure this behavior is addressed." The officer raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched across his face. "You sure you want to go through with this? It sounds like a misunderstanding. He was just doing his job, wasn't he?" Sophia felt frustration bubbling beneath the surface, but she maintained her composure. "No, it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was an abuse of power. I'm a judge, and I deserve to be treated with respect. This isn't just about me, it's about holding officers accountable for their actions." The officer exchanged a glance with a colleague who had just walked into the lobby. They shared a quiet chuckle, their mockery igniting a flush of heat in Sophia's cheeks. But she refused to let their dismissiveness deter her. "I would like to speak with a superior, please," she insisted, her tone firm. After a few minutes, she was led to a small office where Lieutenant Marcus Reyes sat reviewing paperwork. He looked up as she entered, his demeanor immediately professional. "Judge Carter," he said, standing and extending a hand. "I've heard about the incident. Please, have a seat." Sophia sat down, feeling a small sense of relief at finally speaking to someone in a position of authority. "Thank you, Lieutenant. I'm here to file a formal complaint against Officer Brooks for his conduct yesterday." Reyes nodded, his expression turning serious. "I understand this must have been a distressing experience for you. Can you walk me through what happened?" Sophia recounted the events in detail, her voice growing stronger as she described the humiliation she had endured in front of the other diners. She spoke of the disbelief and indignation she had felt when Ethan accused her of being a criminal. His words had echoed in her mind like a haunting refrain. As she spoke, she noticed Reyes taking notes, his brow furrowed in concentration. "I'm sorry you had to go through that, Judge," Reyes said sincerely when she finished. "We strive to serve and protect all members of our community, and it's clear this situation fell far short of that goal." Sophia felt a flicker of hope at his response. "I want to ensure this is taken seriously. It's not just about me, it's about preventing this from happening to anyone else." After further discussion, Reyes suggested that Sophia gather evidence, including the contact information of any witnesses who had seen the altercation. "The more information we have, the better equipped we'll be to address this issue," he said. As Sophia left the police station, she felt a surge of empowerment. She had taken the first step in a long journey toward justice, and she was determined to see it through. The sun seemed to shine brighter now, as if celebrating her newfound resolve. Pulling out her phone, Sophia called Rachel, her best friend. "You won't believe it, I just spoke to the lieutenant, and he seems to be taking this seriously. I need to gather witnesses now." "That's amazing, Sophia. You're doing the right thing," Rachel replied enthusiastically. "Did you notice anyone in the bistro who can back you up? I remember a couple sitting at the table next to me. They looked shocked during the whole thing." "I'll try to reach out to them," Sophia said, her mind racing with possibilities. "Good idea. And remember, you're not alone in this," Rachel reminded her. "You've got so many people on your side." Sophia smiled, feeling the warmth of her friend's support. "Thanks, Rachel. I'll keep you updated. I'm going to fight this." With renewed determination, Sophia Carter set her sights on gathering evidence and witnesses. She knew that every step she took would not only strengthen her case but also bring attention to the broader systemic issues that needed addressing. The path ahead was daunting, but she was ready to confront whatever challenges lay in her way. Sophia entered the Internal Affairs Division of the police department with a sense of purpose coursing through her veins like adrenaline. Clutched in her hands was a folder filled with evidence, witness statements, security footage, and her own detailed account of the humiliating incident at the bistro. The walls of the office were stark and sterile, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead as if underscoring the gravity of her mission. "Judge Carter," a voice called from behind a desk cluttered with papers. It was Sergeant Olivia Monroe, a no-nonsense officer known for her thorough investigations. She gestured for Sophia to take a seat. "Thank you for seeing me, Sergeant," Sophia said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "I'm here to formally lodge a complaint against Officer Ethan Brooks." Monroe nodded, her expression serious. "I've reviewed your initial report. This isn't just about a misunderstanding, is it?" Sophia shook her head, her heart pounding. "No, it's about much more than that. It's about accountability. It's about the systemic issues in policing that allow officers to act without thinking, to judge based on appearance rather than facts." Monroe leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "Okay, let's go over what you've got." Sophia opened the folder and laid out the evidence before Monroe. Her hands trembled slightly as she recounted the details, but she felt a renewed sense of empowerment. This was her chance to be heard, to make a difference. Meanwhile, across town, Ethan Brooks sat in the precinct's break room, his hands wrapped around a lukewarm cup of coffee. The murmurs of his colleagues surrounded him, but he felt isolated, as though trapped in a bubble amplifying every whisper of doubt. "Can you believe he accused a judge?" one officer muttered, shaking his head. "That was reckless." Ethan's jaw tightened. He tried to ignore their comments, but the words stung. "I was just doing my job," he muttered under his breath, though the words felt hollow. Deep down, he knew he had crossed a line. The incident replayed in his mind, haunting him like a specter. He had let his biases dictate his actions, and now he was dealing with the fallout. Back at Internal Affairs, Monroe was meticulously taking notes, her brow furrowed in concentration. She gestured to the security footage playing on her monitor. "This shows you were treated unfairly," she said, "but we'll need more than this to take action against Brooks. We'll need corroborating testimony." Sophia nodded, already anticipating the next steps. "I have several witnesses who were there. I'll reach out to them." "Good. I'll also need a formal written statement from you detailing everything that happened," Monroe instructed. "The more comprehensive your account, the stronger our case will be." "Absolutely," Sophia replied, her resolve hardening. "I won't let this go. Too many people are afraid to speak up, and it's time that changes." Later that evening, Sophia attended a community meeting at a local church, a modest building filled with familiar faces. The room buzzed with energy as people gathered in clusters, discussing everything from school funding to police reform. Sophia took a deep breath, her heart racing. This was her chance to share her story and empower others. As she stepped up to the podium, the chatter faded into silence. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began. "I want to talk about something that happened to me recently, an incident involving local law enforcement that shook me to my core." The room listened intently as Sophia recounted her experience with Ethan Brooks, her voice steady and resolute. "I was publicly humiliated, treated as a criminal because of the color of my skin. But this isn't just my story. It's a story many of you might relate to. It's time we stand together against this injustice." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Sophia could see nods of understanding, the faces of her neighbors reflecting a shared experience. She felt a surge of hope and determination, knowing she wasn't alone in this fight. Sophia Carter scanned the room, the shared pain and determination evident in the faces before her. One woman stood, tears glistening in her eyes. "I went through something similar last year when I was stopped for no reason. It's like they don't see us as human." Sophia felt a surge of solidarity. "Together, we can demand accountability. We can push for change. We are not just victims, we are a community ready to rise." As she spoke, the energy in the room transformed. Sophia was no longer just a judge, she was a beacon of hope, igniting a fire in those who had long felt powerless. The meeting ended with a renewed sense of unity, as people exchanged contact information and pledged to support one another. That night, as Sophia lay in bed, a wave of peace washed over her. She was no longer fighting just for herself but for her community. Every step she took reclaimed her dignity and inspired others to do the same. The next morning, Sophia stood before the large glass windows of her office, gazing out at the bustling city below. The ever-present hum of life continued, yet she felt isolated in her thoughts. The investigation into Officer Ethan Brooks's conduct had taken on a life of its own. With each passing day, the media frenzy grew louder, fueled by reports of racial profiling and police misconduct that ignited heated debates throughout the community. Her phone buzzed insistently, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from Rachel. "You're on the news again. They're talking about the rally this weekend. You should speak." Sophia felt a mix of anxiety and resolve. The rally was a chance to share her story and advocate for change, but the thought of addressing a crowd made her stomach churn. She quickly texted back, "I'll think about it." Later that afternoon, Sophia received a call from the Internal Affairs Division requesting a meeting to discuss the evidence she had gathered against Ethan. Her heart raced, this was the moment she had been waiting for. She arrived at the precinct with a folder full of witness statements and recordings, her determination solidifying with every step. Inside the stark, fluorescent-lit room, she was greeted by Detective Alan Harris, a seasoned officer with a stern demeanor. "Thank you for coming, Judge Carter. We appreciate your cooperation in this matter," he said, his tone professional but cold. "Thank you for taking this seriously," Sophia replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "This isn't just about me. It's about accountability and ensuring this doesn't happen to anyone else." As Sophia laid out her evidence, she noticed the skepticism in Detective Harris's eyes begin to fade. Witness after witness had corroborated her story, describing how Ethan had aggressively confronted her and disregarded her identity and authority. "It's alarming to see a pattern of behavior like this," Harris remarked, glancing at his notes. "We'll need to interview these witnesses." "Good," Sophia replied firmly. "It's crucial we address this, not only for my sake but for the community's trust in law enforcement." Days passed, and the media buzz around Sophia's case escalated. Local reporters camped outside her office, eager to capture her thoughts on the growing public outcry. During one interview, a journalist asked, "Judge Carter, how do you feel knowing your experience has ignited a movement?" Sophia paused, her heart swelling with a mix of pride and apprehension. "I feel grateful that my story resonates with others. But this isn't about me, it's about dismantling systemic racism and ensuring that every individual, regardless of race, is treated with dignity and respect." The day of the rally arrived, and anticipation crackled in the air as Sophia stood backstage. She could hear the crowd chanting for justice, their voices merging into a powerful chorus. As she stepped onto the stage, the sea of faces before her was both daunting and empowering. "Thank you for being here today," she began, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her. "We are gathered not just in protest, but in solidarity. We must stand together to hold those in power accountable for their actions." The crowd erupted in applause, their unwavering support fueling her resolve. Sophia Carter stood on the stage, her confidence unwavering, as she delved deeper into her narrative. Just as her words began to resonate with the crowd, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows, Officer Ethan Brooks. He moved through the throng of people, his expression unreadable. Sophia's heart sank as their eyes met. "Ethan," she called out, her voice cutting through the noise. The crowd quieted, sensing the tension. "I never wanted this confrontation, but your actions have consequences. You've perpetuated a system that dehumanizes people based on the color of their skin. How can you justify that?" Ethan's face flushed, a mixture of anger and shame. "I was just doing my job, Judge. I didn't mean to." "Didn't mean to what?" Sophia interjected, her voice rising. "Didn't mean to racially profile me. Didn't mean to humiliate me in front of everyone. Your biases cost me my dignity and have cost countless others their lives and freedom." The crowd murmured, some gasping at her boldness. Ethan opened his mouth to respond, but the words faltered. Sophia took a step closer, her voice unwavering. "This isn't just about you and me, Ethan. It's about the systemic issues plaguing our society. We all have a role to play in creating change." She turned back to the crowd, her passion reigniting their energy. The rally continued with a renewed sense of purpose, as Sophia led the crowd in chants for justice. Each word resonated with the collective pain and hope of the community. The day of the public hearing arrived, bringing with it a heavy air of anticipation. The community center was packed, its walls adorned with banners calling for justice. Judge Sophia Carter stood at the witness stand, her heart racing as she prepared to testify against Officer Ethan Brooks. The audience buzzed with a mix of hope and apprehension, their eyes fixed on her with expectation. Sophia cleared her throat, her voice steady but resolute. "I stand here today not just for myself but for every individual who has faced discrimination and injustice. My experience at that bistro was not an isolated incident. It is part of a larger pattern that must be addressed." The room fell silent as she continued. "As a judge, I've dedicated my career to upholding the law and ensuring fairness. What happened that night was a blatant disregard for those principles." Across the room, Ethan sat with his shoulders slumped, his face pale. The badge he had once worn with pride now felt like a burden dragging him down. The internal affairs investigation had unearthed more than just his misconduct, it revealed systemic issues within the department. As Sophia testified, evidence of corruption within the police department came to light. Officer Brooks's actions that evening were not only unprofessional, she said, her voice gaining strength, but rooted in a deep-seated bias that he failed to acknowledge. Her words rippled through the audience like a current, igniting nods of agreement. A local activist, Marcus, stood and raised his voice. "Thank you, Judge Carter. We need more leaders like you who are willing to stand up against this systemic issue." Sophia offered him a soft smile, appreciating the support. "When I left that bistro, I could have chosen to remain silent," she continued, "but silence only perpetuates the cycle of injustice. We must speak out, demand accountability, and strive for change." The hearing room was filled with a palpable sense of unity. The officers from Internal Affairs exchanged glances, their skepticism giving way to respect. They recognized the courage it took for Sophia to stand there, challenging the very system that was supposed to protect her. When Sophia finished her testimony, Sergeant Linda Gray, a seasoned officer from Internal Affairs, approached the microphone. Her tone was firm as she addressed the room. "The investigation has uncovered not only Officer Brooks's misconduct but also a broader issue of corruption within our department." Sergeant Linda Gray continued, her voice firm yet steady. "We will be pursuing charges against several officers involved in this scandal, and we are committed to restoring trust within our community." The crowd erupted in applause, a wave of relief and hope sweeping through the room. As the hearing drew to a close, the chair of the Community Council rose to address the audience. "We want to recognize Judge Sophia Carter for her bravery and unwavering commitment to justice. It takes immense courage to stand up and speak out, and we are honored to present her with the Community Leadership Award." Sophia felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes as she stepped forward to accept the recognition. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. But this is not just about me. This is about all of us, working together to ensure our community becomes a safer, more equitable place for everyone. The room filled with applause once more, the sense of unity and purpose palpable. Meanwhile, across the room, Ethan Brooks was escorted out, his future uncertain. The whispers of the crowd followed him, a mix of disdain and pity. He had once believed his badge would shield him from accountability, but the weight of his actions had finally caught up with him. In the days that followed, news of the hearing spread like wildfire. Sophia's bravery became a beacon of hope, inspiring many to come forward with their own stories of injustice. The community began to mobilize, demanding a thorough investigation into the police department and advocating for meaningful reforms to prevent future abuses of power. Sophia stood at the forefront of the movement, her heart swelling with a renewed sense of purpose. She looked out at the growing coalition of voices, neighbors, activists, and leaders, joining together in the fight for justice. This is just the beginning, she thought, her resolve solidifying. She was ready to continue fighting for the dignity and fairness that every individual deserved. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell and watch this next story that's very exciting.